Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to Drawing Down the Dragon. I'm Snappy, and today I'm joined by my dear friend Graham Cwinn. How's it going, Graham?
Happy to be here.
Life is beautiful, is it not?
It is.
Amazing. And today we're going to be discussing something that I'm really excited about. I've been looking forward to this. This is your omnibus, A Cruel Womb. So, this is the entirety of your writings except for your earliest and latest publications, is it not?
It is. It is. It's 22 chapbooks in one, I believe.
22
Seven
in
740 pages.
That's amazing. That's amazing. What an accomplishment, right? And so, how many years of writing is this?
Everything from 2020 onward. No, 2015 to last or earlier this year.
Wow.
So
Wow.
about 10 years worth of writing.
Amazing. Amazing. So, this is really going to give people sort of the best of all of your work, right?
I hope so.
So, you told me you selected 40 poems. So, these would be the ones that you felt that people would resonate with and that really represent the collections.
Yeah, well, also not repeating too many other ones from previous readings.
Right, right. We have done, for those who haven't seen, Graham and I have done quite a few episodes on his various poetry collections, as well as our podcast that we do together, Searching for Dragons, where we discuss poetry and literature from a magical perspective. So go check out those things with Graham. There's always so much fun there. But yeah, we have
Always
him
fun.
lots of you've done so many different poetry readings and we always have fun with this, you read the poem
Yeah,
and then I sort of pick your brain and we analyze and have a little go at it.
totally. It's always a blast.
Right, so why don't we do that? Let's check out this first poem
Dive
here.
in.
I'm excited to see. We got 40 poems, so we're gonna be going through them. Let's see. Oops, there we go.
It's all right.
Okay, so what's
I'll
this
read away.
one?
This. Do you want me to discuss it first or read it?
Yeah, discuss what collection is this from? What is the context of it being written? What's the title mean?
Yeah, so it's from Crawl Inside, which is from 2020, and the title means I will wear this disease in my grave
Oh wow.
or this sickness. I'll just read it and then we can pick apart. Mental illness is a dead body that I lug around with me. Splayed on my floor, I bag over its head so I don't have to see that contorted face, those glazed eyes. On the rare occasion that a friend comes over, I stuff it into the closet. If I need to go out, I wrap it in a spare rug and cellophane to pretend that I'm industrious and care about the interior design of my home. It looks absurd, and it's hard to navigate through traffic, but no one's noticed yet. I fear they might get a whiff of decaying tissue as I pass, or an icy hand will slump out, potentially tripping someone. I don't want anyone to get hurt. In my spare time, I browse the internet for vacant graves or a corpse dumping site, but I haven't had any luck.
Oh wow. That is quite an amazing kind of connected metaphor there. Connecting your mental illness as to a dead body that you have to hide and lug around, and that if anyone sees it, you're going to be seen as a murderer, right? Uh,
Yeah.
that's heavy, heavy stuff.
Partially inspired by The Shroud, which is a song by a band I love, Bostonage, and also inspired by this band called Cadaver Inc. They used to have a fake website that was like about corpse disposal,
Oh wow.
and they got like investigated by the government and stuff, and or the police, and yeah, so it's kind of a mix of those two things together.
Interesting. I love a lot of that wild art that pushes boundaries, but you gotta be careful lest you get investigated and people take your satire as real. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
You know, that's some wild stuff. Those poor little metalheads. It reminds me of the
Right?
satanic panic stuff. Wild.
Totally, totally.
But yeah, also for people who aren't aware, part of the context here is that you have schizoaffective disorder and that
Yeah,
this is well documented throughout your poetry. You are an advocate for mental illness. And yeah,
that I am. Yeah, It's a ride.
Wild. All right. Well, let's continue here.
Yeah, sure. This is short. You make my chest implode. Blankets of ice tuck me in with pneumonia dreams, kissing sand at the bottom of the river as it holds my breath in trembling hands.
Oh, wow. Oof.
So my second of five suicide attempts was a drowning attempt. Um, it was in the winter, and used to live on the river, and my neighbor actually saw me and intervened, and I ended up going to the hospital. But I got pneumonia 'cause I was in the water and I had like a little cinder block that I was holding on to, and I was gonna do it, but then yeah, my neighbor intervened, and for the best. I'm glad that I'm still here.
I'm glad you're still here. Much love, my friend. That's a wild story. Man, I never heard
Yeah,
that one. Oof.
no, no. I talk about it in a couple poems, and this is one of them. Um, yeah,
So heavy. You
that's
make my chest
what I'm.
explode.
Yeah, that's a line from this band called Dioramic. Uh,
Okay.
they're really cool metalcore kind of band.
Interesting.
Um, yeah, so I'm on medication for like my suicidal ideation and stuff, and things have gotten slightly better.
Right.
So I'm not in this place anymore, I would say.
It's just wild because my first thought when reading this was that it was very much a metaphor, like you make my chest implode. You were like, but this is also very literal in the sense of
Yeah,
like your mental illness caused you to almost make your chest implode in the water.
exactly. Very literal.
Wild. All right, let's continue here.
Sure. Lamotrigine, which is a mood stabilizer medication that's also an anti-seizure medication. Numb and detached after years of seeking shelter from this storm, pleading for the strength to expire. Manic depression dismantles and abandons every ambition. Teeth rot in steady synchronicity. I trudge into the strange darkness of tomorrow. Will the clouds part to illuminate a renewed purpose or instill me with quietude?
Wow.
Um, Not much to say about this one. I think it's pretty straightforward, but yeah,
It's a intense energy. Go ahead.
the
Sorry.
teeth rotting is pretty real for me. I went for about 8 years without brushing my teeth,
Oh no.
and they all corroded, and I have like broken molars and stuff, and it's gonna cost like 10 grand to fix it all. So I'm just like living with it.
Oh man, that's tough. Sorry to hear.
Yeah, it's okay. It'll get better. Just have to chip away at it, tooth by tooth.
Tooth by tooth, right? Wow, and I trudge into the strange darkness of tomorrow. That's a powerful line. With the clouds part to illuminate a renewed purpose. Wow, right? Because the new dawn always brings that potential for a revivification, right? Life can still inspire. There's still beauty. You do have this negative aspect, but I did see a bit
There's
of
hope.
light in this poem. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some hope. There's some hope. A few poems have a lighter feel to them, but not many.
Wild. All right.
Uh, this one's pretty intense as well. Crawl Inside, which is the title poem of the collection. A rough feeling as a rope snaps back. Can't breathe, can't see. Thrashing and convulsing hideous contortions. I never knew it would hurt so much. The branch cracks and I crumble to grass and earth. It didn't work. Too hurt to try again. Retreat further into myself, broken and ashamed.
Wow.
So, third suicide attempt was a hanging, and yeah, the branch wasn't strong enough, and it just broke, and I fell on the ground and went back home.
Oh wow. You picked yourself up and just walked back home.
Yeah, as I had like abrasions on my neck, obviously from the rope,
Oh
and
man.
yeah, it was a very dark time. I mean, all of my times are dark, but that was especially.
Oh man. Again, a very, very literal experiential poem for you. Wow.
Yeah, a
And
lot of
I
it's
get this
pretty
feeling, I
physical.
get this feeling like looking at the way that you have written this, that it's almost like the swaying on the branch. and then it
And
cracks.
that wasn't intended, but yeah, I can see that.
That's wild. Interesting. Crazy poem.
Um, yeah, let's keep going. This is a bit more uplifting. Our hands battered by the clutch of holding on. That's a quote from House of Leaves by Mark Danielewski.
We need to still
You
do
embrace
one day we will do House of Leaves for Searching for Dragons, but
it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
it'll take us a long time.
Yeah, yeah. So you embrace the world with alacrity, despite the struggle in your weary gaze. Even the face of death is weathered by your passion. The burden will become lighter. Trees and flowers will sprout from your wounds.
Wow. The burden will
So a
become
little bit more
lighter.
hope.
Yeah, again, and you get this real powerful cyclical energy again that, like things are going to come, new life is going to be born, the trees, the flowers will return, the winter will, move past, and out of the death, new life comes. Out of the negativity, there's a positivity that can follow, right? That's beautiful,
Yeah,
right?
thank
And you
you.
embrace the world with alacrity, right? I like that, that embracing of the world, seeing it with that reasoned clarity, you know?
Definitely. And it's about, even in the face of death is weathered by your passion. It's like you need to live and move forward regardless of what's happening, or else you'll stagnate and perish.
Right, right. Yeah, love conquers all. Love makes life bearable, right? You need that passionate spark and that
You
recognition of the
do.
coming spring, Wow, powerful.
Absolutely. Keep going.
Hmm.
Hearing voices. This is the last poem in Crawl Inside. Whispers fill my ears. You don't deserve to live. The other plants images in my mind. Telepathic messages reverberate in my skull. You belong to us. I leave a letter for my loved ones. This time I will not fail. The voices create a passage and I follow them.
Wow.
So this is a bit of psychosis, as you can glean. Um, Hearing voices, having thought insertion, like my thoughts are being put in my brain from somewhere else.
Right. It's just so
And
wild because, these experiences can be so radically different for everyone. Whispers
oh
fill my
yeah,
ears, you don't deserve to live. I often have whispers fill my ears, but they don't say that kind of stuff. You know? Uh,
yeah. I have a friend who also has schizoaffective, and he has like very his voices are very supportive and encouraging, and I'm kind of a bit envious of that, to be
I
honest. But
remember reading too, like there's even almost a cultural aspect to this because one of the things that I read in this paper they were saying is that in Europe and North America, they tend to be far more negative, but in a lot of Asia, like India and China, the people tend to have more positive psychosis, and they think that it has to
interesting.
do with those cultures, especially traditionally had a general acceptance of spirits and would have seen that kind of psychosis as acceptable within their society, like there was a place and a way to mitigate it. It still isn't perfect, but it's not like the vilification that we received, you know in the West through that Christian
Mm,
dogmatism, right?
yeah, yeah, for
But
sure.
yeah, yeah,
Let's
wild
keep
stuff though.
going.
Yeah, the whole voice thing can be so wild because it's subverting your mind, and it's calling you out, and there's no way to shut it out. It's such a terrifying thing, you know.
Yeah, for about a month earlier this year, there was like a judges panel of people commenting everything I was doing, narrating my life.
I remember you mentioned that during one of our streams. You're like, I'm sorry if I pause, but I'm in a really bad place right now, and these people are
Yeah,
shouting at me.
exactly. Yeah, it can be distracting when I'm trying to do stuff that I love.
Wild.
Let's
Sending
keep
you all the
going.
love, my friend.
Thank you. Love, love back. This is another House of Leaves quote. He dreamt of bones last night. I dream of the sun. Beautiful creatures in remission, striving to be absolved from this misconception of our submission. Twitch and seethe beneath woven flesh. Your calcified prison shall schism like a cocoon. Shed these years of grief, raise your tired eyes, and see the sun as if for the first time.
Oh wow.
So,
Is this like moving beyond the body or beyond the dream? Is the dream the cocoon or is the body the cocoon?
however you want to look at it.
Okay. Just because
It's
the
about
the
it's
quote at
about
the
like
top can change that meaning a bit, you know?
absolutely, absolutely. And it's about how, you can't be creating all the time. Part of creating is not creating. Part of living is not engaging. It's about like retreating a bit into yourself and examining yourself and learning to live with yourself in
Yeah.
spite of everything that's going on. And if other people see it as a mission or giving up, but it's a it's a stasis period that we all need so that we can turn into goop and then reform as butterflies, right?
Yeah, this is a truism you see especially with a lot of creatives, I mean, I remember reading about, one of my favorite authors and, excuse me, I'm trying to remember now. Anyway, the point was is the story was this particular person, they would get all what they would do is they would be in this consumption mode for a long time where they would be living life, enjoying life, and thinking. But throughout that period of time, they're in their head at the same time. And then they go and they isolate themselves and they produce a bunch of work within like a week, but it's been realized over the last, year of leisure time. You know what I mean? And this seems to be something that you see with a lot of creatives. It's like there's this thought process and that can happen in the relaxation. There's that working of things out. That's also part of the work. It has to happen in the mind before it can be expelled into a medium.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm like that too, I'll go for like a month without doing anything, and then in a week I'll write like two or three collections, and then spend the
Right.
next month editing them, and then that inspires me to
Yeah.
write more. But I might take a bit of a break from writing now after
But
all
there's
this
also,
because
there's a lot to be said about discipline too, but we don't want to,
oh
be
yeah,
in that total building creating mode, either.
exactly.
Interesting though.
Let's keep going.
Mhm.
This is from the next collection, One Day All This Will End.
Mm.
This is Abaddon. A lifetime of digressions and disappointments stalk me with insatiable hunger. They usher me along a series of corridors and rooms. No sense of direction, threatened by apoplexy. Each turn leads me farther away from where I need to be. Whispers become howls, cacophonous, throwing atypical patterns down the hallways. I quicken my pace. It is only a matter of time before I falter. When they finally pass over me, there will be no trace, and this place will be once again be vacant and still.
Oh wow.
Without spoiling too much for the Searching for Dragons, this is about House of Leaves, actually.
Right.
He finds a proliferation of rooms and hallways that extend forever inside of his house. And the place, like the house, purges everything that enters it. So this place will once again be vacant and still.
Right. That's an interesting energy because on one hand, it's this house with all these infinite doors. So there's this understand of all this opportunity, all of this expansion, all of this, but then it wants to be still and doesn't want to be explored.
Exactly.
you know?
Exactly.
It's like a contradiction of character.
Yeah.
Interesting. Right.
An undying shadow. Sweat drips down my face as I sit in my living room trying to survive another humid night. The specter of suicide waits with me, mocking me as I drag myself through the agonizing hours. I plug my ears with wax to block out his horrid voice. I take blinders to my glasses to hide its ghastly form. I see it in mirrors, and I stab it repeatedly, but it never dies.
Wow.
So you may have guessed this is about suicidal thoughts and ideation. A little bit of context on that, because everyone, societal pressure obviously is depressing and leads to that. But this is like completely separate from myself almost. Is these constant intrusive thoughts about like seeing images of killing myself, like vivid images, as
Right.
well as mental. And it's a bombardment all day, every day, from awake to asleep.
Well,
and it
and
wait
in this poem, it's become an embodied shadow that you have to slay. That's literally stalking you. That's screaming in your ears and appearing behind you in the mirror.
exactly, and yeah. Since then, since writing this poem, this came out in 2021. This poem, I've with my new medication, there's definitely a difference with the severity of the suicidal thoughts. Excuse me. I would say that I've learned some skills through therapy and with my psychiatrist. So like, it's still intense, but there's a bit of a buffer between me and the thoughts now.
Right. Our friend Gandhi makes an interesting comment here. I plug my ears, very Odyssey-like. Were you influenced by Homer? Are you referencing the sirens? Sirens, are often seen as negative. You posted a meme in which
I
reveals
did.
the sirens as fear, right? As negative thoughts,
Yeah.
intrusive thoughts, right?
A plus
Um,
candy. It was the inspiration. I love Homer. So
right. Yeah. The divine Homer. Hail. Beautiful.
hell,
Love
I
it.
haven't read it in years, but that image came into my head, and I was just like, yes, yes.
It's one of
Block
the
out the
more
sirens.
right. It's one of the more powerful images and more impactful images of the poem, for sure. Right. At least for
Definitely,
me, the sirens are wild.
they are. This is dedicated to a friend who died by suicide in 2007. It's a Helianthus. Elysian fields bathed in gentle hues of yellow and green, are reflecting vividly behind eyes shut tight. An entire existence dedicated to prepare for this excursion beyond the self. Visage embraced by a mask of woven cloth. In the fabric's ancient palate, a reticent tongue explores the taste of rebirth. A ritual to burn this weathered shell. Mortal clay loses shape, features cascade, consciousness retained in roots and leaves. Discover the color of your dreams. The mind outlives the body. Wake to these helianthus fields. The mind outlives the body, facing east, waiting for the dawn.
That's beautiful. May
So
we
my
all
friend
walk
who
among Elysian fields. Go ahead, sorry.
definitely my friend who passed away loved sunflowers.
That's
And
beautiful.
so this is sort of like a nice tribute to my friend. She helped me through one of the darkest moments in my life. And I wish I could have done the same, but she didn't really let it on that she was suffering that much, which is
That's what's
often
so
what the
hard
case.
with depression. Some of
Definitely,
the
is
people,
you want to withdraw and not, reach out to people and just get lost in your own worlds, and then you get destroyed.
right? And often what you see, right, is like a lot of people who are suffering with depression, they mask, they put on a character,
Exactly,
right? They have a face that the
exactly.
world sees. And if it want and depression comes in, as you know, depression comes in waves, right? The suicide is in between the worst of it. You're not at that point where you can't get out of bed, but you're at that point where you can't stay still. And it's like, you know it's a scary thing, right?
It is.
Wild.
It is.
Wild
I used to,
imagery.
my coping mechanism for a long time was just laying in bed. I couldn't hurt myself as I was in bed. It's the point that I was getting bed sores from like not leaving my bed for long enough.
Oh god.
Um,
That makes me think of what's the guy there? Oh, you read his book. I didn't get through it. David Foster Wallace, Infinite
oh
Jest,
yeah, I
because
never
he
finished
talks about
Infinite
that.
Jest.
Oh, you didn't finish it either. Okay, I thought you did.
No,
One of our buddies. Anyway, it's one of these books where it's like it's good, but it's also just you know,
heavy.
and
Yeah,
so much, and so much. I
totally.
need to go back to it. I'm much older now. I was reading it like first or second year of
Yeah,
university, and a lot of it
right.
went over my head. I was like, okay, there's some kind of satire joke that kills people. What?
That's
What's all
why.
this about tennis?
That's why I revisit House of Leaves like once a year for the past 20 years or so.
Well, truly profound books will have that impact, right? If they're a real portal, if they're a real mimic, philosophic device, then you should see them through a new light as you age because you're a different person, right? And
Exactly.
you'll be able to see
You
them in a new light. and get new
informed by
things.
different informed by different life events, you know?
Right, right, right. Wild. Yeah. Another one I need to read is House of Leaves. That's why we got to do this
It's
Search of
so
the
good.
Dragons.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna do an episode. It'll be great. It's gonna be
Yeah,
fun.
absolutely.
Kaiju.
Ooh,
Demolish
isn't
every
okay? Isn't kaiju like Godzilla? Am I
Yeah.
misunderstanding
Yeah,
that? Okay,
big rubber monsters. Yeah.
right, right. Okay, okay.
Demolish everything in sight. Loved ones and strangers turn in fright. How many people stood on the bridges you've burned? Delusions of worthlessness. Trample every future. Watch them crumble. I can no longer live like this, desperate and in despair, giving spatial dimensions to an entity that has come to destroy my world. Sounding the kaiju to kill me.
Summoning the kaiju to kill you.
You know,
Wow.
mental illness is the kaiju here.
Right, right. And it's this ridiculous force that's going to come and just demolish everything in sight. That doesn't make any
Exactly.
sense. This force of nature that can't be reconciled with, right? Makes sense because the original Godzilla is supposed to be that force of nature, that the atomic
Yeah,
bomb, that absolute destructive thing that cannot be avoided or reasoned with, you know? Wow,
exactly. Well
that's
said.
heavy. Okay.
On suicide. I have concluded that within me there is not truly a wish to die. These visions of death presented to me are illusions. Rather, there's an agonizing and inescapable need to experience myself, my true self, in spite of the specters which haunt every moment of my being.
Wow.
So, I don't really want to die, but the voices are telling me that I want to die. And I have to separate myself from those thoughts and, see myself with the eyes unclouded, my true self, in spite of the specters. It's like, yes, there's suffering, but there's more than suffering. And how do I live with them hand in hand?
Right. Yeah. How do you recognize the beautiful in spite of the
Because
spooks?
schizoaffective will never go away. It's with me until I die. But I can
Right.
learn how to live within the confines of my illness
Well,
or
this is something I've read about with
alongside
people.
my illness.
Yeah, this is something I've read about with people with your condition is that often what happens is they come to a general acceptance. The voices scream, the spooks sit at the edge of the bed. They never stop, but now you don't react to them. Now they're not around as
Exactly.
often, you know?
I did psychosis specific CBT a couple years ago, and the conclusion I came to on my own was that yes, the thoughts are disturbing, the visions are disturbing, but it's how I react to them that's gonna harm me or help me.
Right. That's such a powerful statement that you said there. That's something that I always try to teach within the tarot. That's the magic of the Nine of Swords, right? So much is about how we react to the situation. Often with the
What about
Nine of
the Nine of
Swords, it's
Swords?
right. It's born of a real situation. Like life has been truly shit to you, right? You're not just fearful and angry for no reason, but
Mhm.
are you acting rationally? Is that anger causing you more pain? What is it accomplishing? That's what that energy is about. Recognize what it's causing
Exactly.
you, even if it's
You
born from a
know,
real situation. Doesn't matter.
totally. The first tarot deck I ever had, I talked about this in My Neighbor Wants to Kill Me, but I found a tarot deck inside of a safe.
That's so
It
wild.
was like, and the first three times I shuffled it, the first card that came up was a Nine of Swords. And I was
That's
like,
an
"Am I
omen.
cursed? Is this telling me something here?" And I don't have the deck anymore, but
Wow.
um,
Well, the
that's
Nine of
a
Swords is it's
that was my first introduction to tarot was the Nine of Swords. So
yeah, the Nine of Swords is also one of the hardest cards for people to face because if you're truly embodied in that energy, you can't recognize it because it's
no,
it's it's self-victimization energy. And if you're a victim, then everyone's out to get you. You know,
exactly,
you're never going to recognize the overthinking. Oh, it's
no,
yeah, yeah, painful stuff. But this is
it
beautiful
is.
that we have to struggle. We have to face the reality of life. We have to face our
It's not
demons,
about it's
you
not
know,
about beating the darkness. It's about living with the darkness and learning from it.
learning with it,
You
learning
know,
to work with it.
pain pain is a teacher. Why are you hurting? What's going on? examine yourself, examine your life, and find out where that pain is coming from and what is it telling you.
And examine reality. Yeah. And pain forces action. One of the things I remember Gast saying is like, once he entered into that chronic pain place, he had to get out. Like, all he could do to deal with it was get out of the city, get into himself, and be in that creative mode. That made life bearable, you know.
Exactly.
Removing the frustration and being and doing what which you're passionate about. That is healing stuff, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, powerful. All right, let's keep
Keep
going
going.
here. Oh, doesn't want to. Oh, I have to use my mouth. There we go.
Nice. This is from can't remember which collection this is from, to be honest. I think Cruelty and Transformation. Untying the noose. Not a day goes by where I don't think about killing myself. My mind replays images of my body hanging from the bridge near my house. But then I think about who would find me. They would be scarred forever. And what about the people I leave behind, devastated beyond repair? What if I fail? What then? I will live with the shame of yet another failed suicide attempt. Attempt number 6. I can't do that to them. I can't do that to myself. I'm in terrible pain. I am alive.
Wow.
So yeah, once again, we're coming back to these repetitive suicidal thoughts, and just I've seen many suicides, and seeing the wake of it in other people, it just devastates them, and I don't want to do that to my loved ones, and I don't want to do that to myself.
That's the
Especially if I
heaviest.
fail. What if I fail and I'm like paralyzed from my life or something? Which is like,
Right. Then you make everything even worse, and you make it worse for your loved one. The other thing, one of the things about suicide, and this is one of the hardest things to talk about with suicide and with life in general. Number one is none of us, many of us in our current society, we like to see ourselves as these individuals, as these people who are responsible for themselves, who are disconnected. But the reality is couldn't be further from the truth. All of us are connected to the people around us and our loved ones, our family, our friends, and our life has weight and meaning. And suicide is, and it's complicated, but it is. It's also a selfish act, right? It's an act that abandons the world, that abandons life. Rather
yeah,
than facing the problem. In some instances, it's
yeah. I
complicated.
mean,
It's
it's very
complicated.
complicated. I think that you know, not about shaming the person's like
No, of
attempt
course
or
not.
like desire to be destroyed. It's about listening and being like reconnecting to your community, and
Reconnecting to the people around you.
recognizing that like society tells us society is hyper anthropocentric, hyper individualist. You
Mhm.
are you, and you're entitled to this, that, and that, and if you don't get it, then you're not a person, kind of
Right.
thing.
That's
And
true.
it's like anthropocentrism is killing the planet. It's
Yep.
alienating us from ourselves, from nature,
Yep.
from each other. We were born to be together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's so much why so many of us are struggling with suicide because we're doing it alone, you know?
Yeah.
you know? Like, or
Society
we're
so- society
Mhm.
stigmatizes mental health but mourns you when you're gone.
Right.
Oh, he was so
Right.
beautiful. What could we have done? So you actually could have done a lot,
You
but you
actually could have
didn't.
done a lot.
And now
You could
people
have
are
done a
falling through the
lot.
cracks. People are falling through the cracks and dying because of mismanaged policy and not seeing people as valid for who,
What they, what it is, it's this one of the, it's this wild, hyper individual, pull yourself up by, like you said it, pull yourself up by the bootstraps nonsense, where it's like everyone needs to be this hyper successful capitalist, and if you can't succeed in that world, then you're the problem,
Yeah. Be
and
yourself, but not like that.
yeah, be yourself, but not like, check with us first, right? Be yourself,
Yeah, yeah.
but check with us first. That's one of there's that guy I love, my favorite comedian of all time, Chris Fleming. He has this brilliant
Okay.
joke where he's talking about, he goes, people want to pretend like David Bowie somehow was some kind of radical weirdo who pushed the limits. No, David Bowie was one of the beautiful people. He was allowed to be unique because we're like, you know what? You're a cool, hot jock. The real weirdos, the real people who are being themselves, they're pushed to the margins. They're in the corner, you don't see them, and it's like, oh man, it's kind of true. It's kind of true. It's like you can be free if you're hot and successful. Otherwise, no.
Yeah.
That's
What's
I was
what's that meme? Deviation from the norm will be punished unless it is exploitable.
right. That's from Rudolph, right?
Yeah, it's a
I
Rudolph
always
meme. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, because that's true, right? When you look at that, what happens once they recognize they can exploit his nose, then all of a sudden he's accepted. His
The
elf
chum
friend, once they
chums. Yeah.
realize they can exploit his dentistry, then he's accepted. It's like, my gosh.
It's messed up world. It's a messed up world.
But that's the world we find ourselves in, and that's not going to lead to the healing of these kind of issues. We need to accept each other as
No.
individuals and help each other. One of the, you know,
Takes a village
yeah,
to raise a child, right?
takes a village to raise a child. This is the thing. I was, talking to a client earlier, and they were talking about, recognizing that their parents fell short, you know, and that that left them without, the best of role models, and then they're trying to come into the adulthood and they're falling short. And I'm just like, recognize though the cycle of trauma here. Your parents didn't have role models either, and their parents didn't have role models. And the
Yeah.
real issue is, why don't we have a community that's offering extra help? Like these, it takes a community to raise a family. It shouldn't just be on the parents. Like, you should be able to find role models in many places, and yet we can't, you know? Yeah. It's a wild
Well
moment,
said. It
right?
is. It is.
And we really need to take that time to break out of this hyper individualism and come back into nature, come back into community, right?
Yeah.
Come into that loving energy of acceptance. Like, for me, that is always the empress in the tarot, right? The empress, right? She loves everyone. She creates everything. She accepts people and things as they are, and that's difficult energy to embody, but it's worth striving
Absolutely.
for.
Well said. Well
Yeah, let's
said.
keep going.
Sure. Liberation. For decades, I felt I was trapped within myself. I realize now there's a whole world in me and that it resonates with the world around me. I'm free to wander the caverns of my skull, to swim in my veins, to dance inside my limbs. And I realize that the more I dance, the more others want to dance with me.
Right. Wow. The more I
Just what we were
dance,
talking about, you know?
right? Right. And this is also the thing. The more that I'm in that positive love, engaging in life, in spreading joy, being my beautiful self, the more others want to dance. They want to harmonize with you. Right. But that's the thing. We're all doing our own dance, but we're also a part of the same communal dance.
Absolutely. Sort of like the first note, and then from that reverberations come out and all these other melodies are adding to this note, and next thing you know, we're a whole like mosaic of sound and narratives.
Well, and I think so much about the true liberation, right? Right. I'm coming at this from a very specific tradition, right? When we're
Okay.
dealing with the Greek tradition, we're dealing with what they call non qualified monism or non qualified polytheism. Both kind of apply because at the end of the day, it's the one and the many. Both are true. You recognize that ultimately everything is united in the one, but yet everything appears as separate, and life continues, and you exist in the unfolding of life. Both are fundamentally true. Just because you recognize the unity doesn't mean that life doesn't continue, you know and
Yeah.
so you have to recognize the unity and then come back into life. To be liberated is to understand that you're part of this greater flow, and that this life is but a moment, and that you're not bound in it. You're part of the greater tapestry, and that tapestry will continue to write itself, and you will be a part of that ever expanding picture. You can't not be. And so
No.
it's about embracing and loving the moment by recognizing the greater whole.
Definitely,
That's
definitely finding it.
real liberation, you know?
It is. It is. Well said. Well said.
Beautiful stuff.
When you like this one, when
Okay.
things conspire together, energy and matter cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. We are all part of a grand system that is perpetually and tirelessly ebbing and flowing amongst different phases of being and non being. Even the space between atoms is an integral facet of existence. Our bodies, composed of trillions of microbial beings, operate in unison, a miraculous yet real example of what can happen when things conspire together.
This is literally saying what we were just talking about. The body is a perfect example of this, right? We are a billion trillion cells and microbes and things that are working together in this miraculous unison to produce an ego, to produce a conscious, to produce a self. Now, that individual self is real, but it is also false, right? Just like the one and the many, just like, that which is above is the same as that which is below, right? And just like fate, just like the sun. What do I mean? You look at the sun, right? It appears like we, we're, from our perspective upon the earth, it appears like the sun revolves around us. Our math can prove otherwise, that we revolve around the sun, but it still appears that way. And the appearance is important. We have to confront the appearance of things as well as the reality of things, you know like it's a complicated thing. There's you have to take into account perspective. And it's just like fate.
Yeah.
Fate, right? Here's the thing: from our individual perspectives, it appears like we have choice, right? And we live our lives as if we have free choice. But ultimately, my perspective, I believe things are fated, things are determined, all things have already occurred, every possibility. And so, as such, our things are determined. But it doesn't matter if they're determined, because they appear as if we have free choice. So we live our life with free choice, but we do the things that we're determined. So they cancel each other out, in a
Like
sense.
the personal will versus a universal will, right?
Exactly. You get it. You get it. The micro versus the macro, the one and the many. All these things are integral,
If you zoom
and
out, each one of us is one of those microbial beings, for like the greater society. And when you zoom in, we're our own universe. If you zoom out, we're part of like a bigger universe.
I mean, you've seen those pictures of our galaxy where you start to zoom out far enough and everything starts to look like a mind. There are no coincidences. It looks like a nerve. It looks like a nerve map. That is the Purusha
Yeah,
Shukta. That's the Fani's. That's the cosmic man. They're ripped apart in us, but they're also still existing. They're the fabric of reality. And you can
yeah,
see their neural framework in the stars.
totally.
Yeah,
You can see it in leaves too, like vascular systems and stuff, and
absolutely, and all these spirals, right? It's all interconnected.
it is. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
A return to sorcery.
Ooh.
This is a demand that we as a society return to the mystical aspect of being. By mystical, I mean the recognition that there is a grand energy in all things, and the wonder and reverence instilled by this recognition. Too many of us feel aimless and lost. Whether one is religious or not, it is essential to feel like one is a part of something greater than ourselves. We did not evolve to be solitary creatures. We crave connection and acceptance. What better way to discover that than by opening up to the universe? We must once again ritualize the aspects of existence that connect us to ourselves and everything around us.
Oh man, that's so beautiful. What's the context of this?
This is from The Flesh is Not a Prison, I believe. I can't really remember to be honest. But
Well,
it,
go
it
ahead.
was inspired a little bit by
I immediately think aghast when you use sorcery. You know,
I wrote this just after reading Anarch.
right, right. Yeah, everyone should check out Gas Boucher and their incredible work. Anarch is an amazing piece of art and
Blew my
inspired
mind.
literature, right?
Inspired me in profound ways that like I can't really put into words.
Right. And one of his big things is re-engaging the mystical, but through this chthonic lens, through this return to the earth and the healing of the earth, the embracing of life, not this kind of Gnostic transcendentalism of escape, but
No,
rather that reintegration in that seeking of
Des-
healing, you know?
descend into matter.
Descending into matter and facing the complexity of the moment. We have to face the wounds of the earth and the pain that we have wrought, right? That was such a heavy part of
Yeah,
that book, Anarch, but I see that on
absolutely.
display here, this idea of the sorceress, of the magical, and just like we've been talking about, you have to recognize the unity. You have to come into that mystical understanding of life as this cyclical unfolding. And when you can embrace that, then you find purpose. You accept the cycles of life and death. You accept this transitory moment and you embrace generation. You know, you pursue creative work. You're enlivened in the earth rather than seeking this fear and escape. You know,
Exactly. Or trying to control it, It's like you're just living with it.
right, right. Let's keep going here.
Sure. The war against psychosis. The beings torment me from all sides. They claim to control everything. Yet, I have discovered a secret flame hidden within the layers of my illness, and this flame shall proceed from my mouth, and in turn it shall become my sword. I shall wield it with fury and with hope, and I shall slay these beings once and for all.
This is such a wild, magical moment, and I love this poem. It immediately
I think
makes me
I, I
think
think I
of.
read it last time, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We've definitely read it before. But this one, when we're talking about the secret hidden flame, that's often the language they use for the muse, right? And there's this recognition that you have to light the spark within, and then that spark is going to inspire and appear upon the tongue, right? You'll sing the song of the birds, you will speak with fire, you will, empower yourself with the snake tongue. You're inspired, and then that becomes that weapon of justice, right? This is really invoking that kind of wild Median magic that that I love to get into.
Yeah, yeah.
The
It's
Furies, this really. Go ahead.
inspired by obviously the Book of Revelations, the sword that comes
Right.
out of the angel's mouth, and yeah.
Right, and we know that the Book of Revelations is all inspired by, it's just Greek nonsense.
Yeah.
Right, Lady Babylon, right? And we get the Corey as the knight who rides the pale horse, right? That pale horse, there's so much Greek magic in that text of Revelation. I'm so
It's
surprised
wild,
they ever included it in the Bible, you know.
right?
Right, you
Wild
know.
stuff.
Yeah, but then again, the Bible's pretty ridiculous,
Oh
all over.
yeah,
So
totally.
I mean, what myth isn't though?
Well said.
Right.
This was poetry or a necessary immolation.
Ooh.
I clad myself in a dark robe, walked with determination to the town square. It is midnight. I ring a brass bell as I tread, not to summon, but as a warning, as if to say, listen and be afraid. Watch from the comfort of your warm and cozy home the atrocity I am about to commit. In my right hand I carry a container filled with fuel. When I reach the center of town, I cease the ringing of my bell. I stand, head bowed in silence. I reaffirm in my mind that this is a necessary act. I bathe myself in fuel, and with the strike of a match and a single resounding scream, I light up their world.
This is such a wild, and this makes me immediately scream Medea. In the earliest version of the story, right, of the Argonauts at the ending, what she does is she doesn't kill her own children. What she does is she sets the entire city ablaze, and she's like, "You're all gonna suffer and burn." And then she gets on her chariot and gets out of Dodge, and then they murder her children, in response to blame her for the action that she did for burning down Corinth. But she did that because they were going to exile her, right? Um,
Wow,
yeah, and yeah.
wild.
And anyway, the Medea story is wild, but this is such a magical image. This idea of standing up, no longer taking it, empowered in your will, and just striking that match, you know?
It's partly inspired by a line from Artaud. We said we must be like victims at the stake burning through the flames. He
Oh,
says he
that's
says
wild.
poetry he says poetry is immolation. So this is a direct Artaud inspiration.
Poetry is immolation. Well, it's inspired word that's desired design. True poetry is designed to do what? It's designed to inspire, to set that heart ablaze, to give you that tongue, right? So yeah, I mean, it is kind of an immolation.
It is. It is.
That's wild. Oh man, love Arto. That's a great poem.
He's the goat.
Oh yeah.
Crystalline armor. This is from Sacred Armaments, essential for vanquishing psychiatric demons. It is cracked and flaking apart, but it has endured for decades now, and I must place my trust in it, for it reflects the light in strange patterns that scratch the darkness, make it howl, make it offer transformative wisdom in exchange for another piece of my armor.
Wow, that's powerful stuff. I remember, this collection was the one in which you were creating magical weapons in order to defend yourself from the mental illness in its
Exactly. Yeah.
various aspects. So,
Yeah. You have
wow.
to have this. You have to have the strength to wear the armor, right?
Right, right. It's that chariot card, don the armor and take a stand, you know? Um, Giving up is it always an option, and you can't. You got to fight for what you love for life, you know? Heavy, heavy stuff.
Exactly.
But it's that
Exactly.
responsibility, and that's what it means to be embodied in the earth. That's the difference, between these, like, the chthonic roots versus that transcendentalism, right? The transcendentalism will say things, like, we have to embrace that idyllic idea that, we must escape the world. The world is suffering. Let's go sit in meditation. Meanwhile, the rest of us are all stuck here and we're dealing with the complexities of life, and we have to deal with the issues that are facing us in the now. Are you going to protect what you love, or are you going to go run off into the woods and abandon it? This that kind of energy always makes me think of Prince Arjuna from the Mahabharata and the Bhagavad Gita, and that's very much his story. He's a king, and he's a king who's being called to war to fight against his loved ones, his friends and his cousins, his family, and he knows that this is an important war, that if he doesn't fight in it, and if they lose, then that there's going to be extreme degradation, genocide, the worst, but he's caught up in this religious idea, and he's bound in fear. He doesn't want to have to go to war. He doesn't want to have to face his family, but he also knows if he doesn't, all hell is going to break loose, and
Mm.
so he could have been like a monk and abandoned everything and ran off into the woods, tried to achieve enlightenment, but he doesn't. He's a king. That's his path, that's his dharma, right? And he
Right.
goes and he dons the armor and takes responsibility, and this is what I always tell people. You have to deal with the life in which you find yourself. You have to deal with the family and the loved ones in which you find yourself. In those traditional religions, like in the Buddhism and in Hinduism, only a very select few ever went off to go do the monastic thing. If you
Mm.
have responsibilities, you have to embody them, you know
Take account.
right? But that's what it means to embrace that energy of the chariot. Is to, it comes after the lover's card. The lover's card is that commitment to love, to refinement, to engaging. Then the chariot is the challenge. It says, oh, so you love something? You're committed to something? Are you willing to die for it? Are you willing to die for it? If you love something, then you're willing to die for it, and you will throw yourself at it. You will fight for yourself, for this love, and that's how it's real, right? That's why the chariot's the most powerful card, you know?
Yeah, reminds me a bit of a quote from Yukio Mishima. Um, Infinity Land Press used this as their slogan. True beauty is something that attacks, robs, overpowers, and finally destroys.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah.
Great quote. Great quote.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Let's keep going. No fourth wall.
Oh, Arto would be proud.
This illusion obscures the truth. Shatter it. Merge the spectacle laid before you.
Because the fourth wall, what it does
It's
is
only
it
a few
turns us
hundred.
into, go ahead.
No, it's okay.
I was going to say, it kind of turns us into a voyeur. It makes us a peeping Tom. We're no longer a part of the story, but rather judging it, right? We're not in connecting to a great actor or a great film can still make you identify with the protagonist and whatnot, but you are not living with the protagonist. In the Greek theater, the chorus was the audience, and they would go up and yell at the actor or the
Yeah.
actors.
The fourth wall is only a concept that's a few hundred years old. And
Right,
like even when Shakespeare's time, there wasn't a fourth wall. That's why you have asides, you have soliloquies. Those are all addresses to the audience. Audience would
right.
definitely be rowdy, for sure,
Yeah,
and
they
like
would be throwing stuff at people.
jeering and cheering, depending. Yeah.
Yeah,
And we see this in African storytelling. We see this in Balinese theater and artwork. We see this, over and over again. This need to merge with the spectacle. You're a part of it. You come together for like a mutual understanding and like
right,
transformation and healing.
right. But with the fourth wall, you stay in your
You're
seats.
separated.
You're in the theater. You're perceiving. You're not a part of the play. You're not a part of the performance. Yeah,
Peeping Tom is a good way to put it. It's like an invisible window that we can peer into people's lives with.
right. And it's that creepy imagery. It always makes me think of when I think of this kind of stuff. It always makes me think of Foucault. The eternal prison where everyone is being spied on, and to be spied on is to be violated, right? But that's the thing is once you're spied on, then you are in performance, right?
Yeah,
So part of this is also once you remove the spy and the audience becomes a part of the performance, now the actor is not performing, right? Because they're not putting on a show for you. You're part of the show. They're embodying the figure. They are Dionysus. They are, whatever character on the stage is. You are whatever character you are, right? You know,
absolutely. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
Powerful stuff. People we've lost that sense. And film is still powerful, right? It still has that
Oh,
ability for us to film can still do a lot. It can even break that fourth wall, you know. Um,
yeah.
and there's still right. The point of all of this literature and art and theater is to live vicariously, right? To expand our perception, to experience the all, to face our greatest societal fears, to face these to be able to
There's
speak truth to power, right? Like if you look at all the traditional forms of theater, right? Comedy serves a purpose. We have to allow society to rage against its politicians. Tragedy serves a purpose. We have to face that which is so ugly and frustrating to our community, right? Um, it's like we've lost
run.
that sense.
It reminds me a bit of this book, a really good book called The Dead Father. I can't remember the author right now, but they say inside the left leg there are confessions, and the people flock to the leg to give their confessions, and then the confessions are mixed together and played as movies every Friday, and you can see images of yourself in the films,
Yeah, and
and it's like
like
it's trippy.
one of the weirder elements of breaking of the fourth wall Gandhi brings up, right? Deadpool. And why do I say this is one of the more weirder
Yeah,
ones? Because the author, the guy who created Deadpool, says that Ryan Reynolds was one of the inspirations for the character. And then later on, when the movie's getting made, the fans have this whole big thing to force the studios to make Ryan Reynolds the character, right? He appears first as like a degenerate, version that had nothing really to do with the comics. But the fans were so insistent on making him, they managed to bring him back. And now that series has become quite the phenomenon in the comic book world, you know? And yeah, it's like it's hard to separate now Ryan Reynolds from Deadpool. They've become synonymous. They are, it's and you see this sometimes.
yeah.
It's the same thing with like,
I feel
another.
that I feel that way with Philip Seymour Hoffman in the Synecdoche, New York. I see Hoffman is Cotard, Aiden
Right.
Cotard in that film.
He's
That's like my
become
brain
that
just
character.
associates them.
right? Your mind associates it. You can't see them through another lens. It's the same thing. Like I think like Hugh Jackman is Wolverine. You know, you could never get another person to play that Wolverine character. You know, like
It'd be a very different. It'd be a play out very differently.
right? You know, or I think about those really wild actors, people who engage in this is a form of clear magic to me. If you look at people like what's the guy who played Abraham Lincoln there? He won the Oscar, Daniel Day
Oh,
Lewis, and he's doing that. What's that called? Method acting. Where he's adopting a gait and he's adopting an accent, and he goes and lives in the woods and builds a log cabin in order to
yeah,
embody
yeah.
the character,
Kind of like Heath
right?
Ledger as well.
Yeah, with the Joker, right? He wound up dealing with psychosis after that, you know?
Wild stuff.
Wild stuff. Yeah,
Let's keep
theater is
going.
magic.
Theater is magic. A losing war. We have forgotten how to live. We shield our gaze from the mystery. We arm ourselves with ignorance, and day after day we march further away from ourselves.
Wow. Yeah, that's true, right? We've forgotten how to live. What is the whole point of the mystery? To connect you to life and the cycles of life and death. You got to die before you die so that when you die you don't die.
Yeah.
My satirist friend Mandy Moore said that once and I've never forgot it.
Bless you, Mandy. Bless you.
Bless Mandy, hail Mandy, right? Too fun, you know. And day
Yeah.
after day, we march further away from ourselves, right? We arm ourselves in ignorance. And, what's the point of the mysteries? Know thyself, know yourself. And to know yourself is to know nature, to see yourself reflected in the other, right? And to become whole again, right? That's the essence of the mystery right there, right? We're marching away from ourselves and we say that we're embodying our rugged individualism and being our unique self as we conform and become consumerist capitalists,
Yeah.
insane people.
Totally. Totally. Let's keep going.
Right.
This is what we were talking about just a minute ago. Communal transformation. They flock to their
Yeah.
seats and
Oh, there's a comment here that's interesting by Magic Magazine. Yeah, yeah, it was created in '91 by Rob Liefeld, and I saw a thing where Liefeld really loved Ryan Reynolds' comedy, and throughout the drawing of that show, or throughout the drawing of the comic, the character took on elements of Ryan Reynolds, and now they're like they've merged. Now when he draws that character, he draws him as Ryan Reynolds became that character,
it's
right?
wild.
It's just so what art imitating, the two. It's
Art is
like
life is artist. Art is life is art
right.
is life is art is
They
life
all
is art
come
is life.
in, but yeah, continue here. Sorry.
Cool. I love that.
Hmm.
So yeah, communal transformation. They flock to their seats in droves, eager to receive divine wisdom from the muse. A powerful exchange between audience and performer, in which cruelty and ecstasy are fervently worshipped. It's kind of what we were just
Wow.
talking about, but in different
Yeah.
words.
Right. They flocked, eager to receive the wisdom. Yeah. They're going to that theater, to that performance.
This is
You
from
know.
Theastai, my collection,
Mhm.
which is Theastai is the root of theatron, which means to behold.
Right.
Well, Theastai is behold, theatron is viewing place. Sorry, I should have specified that. And from that
Right.
we get theater.
Right. And this is where you would go to view the mystery plays, to view the mystery rites, right?
But it's an
To
exchange
participate
too.
in the city Dionysia, you know?
Exactly, exactly.
Right.
So we already talked about this, but yeah, it's
It's powerful stuff, And I
yeah,
just always remind people too, Aeschylus, the great playwright Aeschylus, was beaten for writing Prometheus Rising, because they said he revealed too much. So,
yeah, yeah. Sickness is a mask that I can't remove. The perpetual battle against schizoaffective disorder has permanently marked my visage. You may hear on occasion a laugh escape my lips, but I am bound and drained with the imperfections of my brain. And so the drama unfolds. A grand theater in which my illness and my will refuse to intertwine.
wow.
So, in theater, there's a changing of the masks in Greek theater to become someone new. And in this case, The mask is just my face. Kind of like Hexadecimal from Reboot. You know, she has the different
Right.
faces that she swaps on.
Oh wow,
Uh,
something our non-Canadian audience may not get, but
yeah,
Hexadecimal was
yeah,
this
my bad.
was this cartoon CGI character from the show Reboot, but her whole thing was that she would swap theater masks, and those would be her face, and she'd always be doing
Yeah,
this, and it would
Reboot
always
was
be an
actually one
extreme of
the
emotion, you know.
Reboot was the first fully CGI TV show, actually,
Oh,
if I recall correctly. I may be wrong on that, but I remember reading that.
wild! Yeah, I just remember that show having like the biggest cult following in Canada,
Yeah,
and then it got canceled, and everyone was like freaking out, right?
yeah.
Oh, I think you're misunderstanding what I'm saying about Ryan Reynolds. It's like the inspiration came much later, right? Rob Liefeld created the character for sure without Ryan Reynolds in mind. But then, like playing around with the character as the character develops, this is why there became a fan thing to try and make Ryan Reynolds become you know, Deadpool, right? One of the things with the Deadpool comic is it's so self-referential and there's all this pop culture elements into it, you know? So it's not like he's influenced by that guy at the beginning, but that influence came in later and then they kind of coalesce into the film. It's just really interesting, you know, how
Yeah,
these things kind of intertwine. Sorry, that was a comment by Magic
no
Magazine
worries.
there.
No
Yeah.
worries. Let's keep
Yeah.
going.
Okay. Mise en
Mise en
scène.
scène. Light, gesture, set, costume, music, sculpture, poetry. A language of many tongues. Symbols swirl in ritual frenzy, and the living theater will cry out.
Wow. Swirl and
So
ritual frenzy.
the mise en scène is everything in the production other than the text.
Right.
And Artaud was said that in his time, the text became the be all and end all of the performance. The mise en scène took a sidestep, and he's like, "No, the mise en scène is the language. It's the one thing that is everything,
Right.
and we need to return to the power of the mise en scène to create these universal symbols that can clash and unite and live."
Right. Well, you know, that's the thing where, you know, when you're dealing with theater, you're dealing with a total performance, right?
Exactly.
You're creating a full experience. And Artaud was really huge on that. He wanted to even have it more of an intimate total experience.
Yeah, he
This is
wanted to
something that
have seats that would
yeah,
rotate to follow the action, which reminds me of Universal Studios.
right.
You know, all those rides where you're in like there's a screen, you're moving around, you
Yeah,
can
he would
drop
have
or
loved those
lift.
fourth dimensional things with like shoot air at you and your chair rocks.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. He would have loved that shit. It's like whenever I
Yeah,
see
he would
those,
have
I'm like,
hated it.
oh,
It's
Arto.
wild though. But yeah, you know, the mise en scène is something that is often forgotten or at least put into the background. You know, we focus upon the dialogue and the character, but there's something
Exactly.
that's spoken. Go
Not to say
ahead.
the dialogue isn't important, but it needs to no longer be the driving force of the production, you know?
Right. Wild stuff.
Wild
Yeah.
stuff. I love it.
You know, and that's the thing is that like, you know, the symbolic is also a language. You know, one of the cool things, like, you know, one of the things I'm really into is aesthetics, the aesthetic tradition, you know, and I've looked at it across both the Western and the Eastern philosophical systems. In fact, one of the most inspiring things I ever did was I took this amazing course on Indian aesthetics. And one of the things that really inspired me was the philosophy is this character, Abhinavagupta, who's a Shaivite philosopher, right? And what he was about was creating this intimate unveiling of the mystery through theatrical performance, but also even making it physical. You know, he would be what we would call like a tantrika, you know, but not this Western concept of tantra, right? It's
Right.
far more about this, you know, breaking away from false conceptions, coming into a true realization of reality through the performance of a mythopoetic image, right? So they transform the temple into the theater, and you would watch these performances of the myth as dance, as art, And they would also have all of the sound and musicians. They'd have incense. They were trying to create like a true like 3D lived experience that would lead to a transcendent revelation. They believed that through the perception of art, you could transcend to the divine.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Right, wild stuff.
Let's go. Our body is made of clay, crafted from the crust of the earth. We all are dust, and to dust we shall return. And yet we live, and yet we love. We dance the shapes of constellations and burn ever brighter, signaling like beacons through the darkness.
Wow.
Engage in the dance of creation. We're all part of it.
Right, we're all crafted from that dirt, from that dust. That's the thing.
It's like I said before, energy and matter aren't created or destroyed, just transformed. We're the same universal forces, just shifting into different permutations.
Right, and this is seen kind of like, right now I've been doing this deep dive into the Fool card. I'm writing this essay, and I'm going to do like a long form video. So I've been going through like Crowley's essay, which takes up like 60% of the Book of Thoth is his essay on the Fool. And he
Oh wow.
equates the Fool with like several different deities, but the big one being, of course, Dionysus, Zagreus, right? The divine child and the androgyne who's ripped apart in the descending into creation. But what's so wild about it is he talks about also, okay, when you're looking at that primal image of the Fool, it's the mother and the son combined in a single image. It represents the primordial vacuum of air. Out of nothing comes something, right? He phrases this as this equation: 0 equals 2, but 0 is not nothing in like the Christian sense, the Catholic sense, like ex nihilo. That nothing is the light of the muse, right? It is
Mm.
something. It's that cosmic womb, but we can't understand it. You're now crossing into that threshold of absurdity. So the Fool is the vacuum that then expels. It's the windbag, right? This is another meaning for the word fool, even. And it's the windbag that expels all of the elements. Out of the windbag comes the primal elements, the 3 primal Hebrew letters: the earth, the fire, and the air, or sorry, the water, the fire, and the air, which then become the earth, right? So
Mm.
it's that,
Beautiful.
there's always that trinity. From you go from 0 into 2, and so the trinity is always that absurd, and then the creation. And you can't just have one, right? That Fani's energy, the one, you can't have knowledge, you can't have experience, so it has to rip itself apart in order to experience the other. The one must become many in order to know itself, right?
Right. Love it. Love it.
Wild stuff. Anyway, sorry for the rant.
No, no, it's great. It's beautiful.
Right.
Beautiful.
Our bodies are clay, right? We are the dust. We are matter, right? That is the great mother. We are made of the matter. Hail, Magna Mater.
Hail. This is from A Course of Angels Sing These Mournful Hymns, which is a short chapbook that I put out. We read this one before, but it's worth reading again.
Beautiful.
Let the earth grow old and wait for our demise. Angels sing these mournful hymns, they burn us with 1,000 eyes. In their gaze we see the pit, screams clawing from the fire, and we fall down into it. Apollo laughs and plays his lyre. A transformation foretold by the gods of old. Humanity melts below and at last becomes whole.
Beautiful. Hail Apollo. You're invoking Apollo in his very Luciferian mode here, which is beautiful. I
Yeah, yeah,
mean,
laughing,
Apollo
playing
is
the lyres.
Lucifer.
So we fall
But
into the fire.
right. In their gaze, we see the pit, screams clawing from the fire, and we fall down into it. Apollo laughs and plays his lyre. But the devil is that adversary who challenges us to overcome our limits, to rise to the occasion, and he will offer you the secrets. He'll lead you to that perfected middle path, but you must ask for true love or wisdom, which are ultimately the same. And if you ask for anything else, you're going to find yourself in that fire, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that's where, you'll go on a long journey of discovery, but that's where it will ultimately take you, and it will be of your own doing. That's the
Yeah.
always in those Apollonian Luciferian tales, the monster is never the demon, right? The monster is always the one making the wish, right?
Right. Love it. Love it.
Yeah, wild stuff. But that's so cool. A transformation foretold, right? And this connects to that,
So
right?
recognition of the cycle,
Yeah, right.
we'll become whole again and then probably rip ourselves apart again after that, and then we're whole, and then it's about the perpetual dance.
It's that perpetual dance. The one becomes many to know itself. Then it has to return to the one in order to overcome that separation and go, right? And that's the unfolding of reality, the game of Leela, right? you know and the developing of intelligence. I always think of this idea. You see it very, very prominent in the Western occultic tradition. It's that the universe is sort of this experiential machine designed to evolve us into, respectable, beautiful human beings who can live outside of time and not be greedy jerks. you know
Yeah. Well said.
right. Yeah, let's keep going.
Hymn 5. We also read this one. I smear your face with my blood to seal a part of me within you, a ritual of union, a new projection of our being, the birth of the androgyne. You smear my face with your blood to seal a part of you within me.
Wow. A ritual
So,
union, the
yeah.
alchemical wedding.
People say blood is thicker than water, but the actual expression is blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. There's a
Oh,
completely opposite meaning,
right. That's
which is
ridiculous.
pretty interesting. Yeah, yeah. I've always loved that oddity. Uh,
Well, you can see why we changed it, though.
oh yeah, totally, totally. But it's like, especially in this day and age, it's like you need to choose your family, right? And you have your birth
Absolutely.
family, but you might not get along. It's not just your mother and father. You find role models in other people as well, and friends, teachers.
Community is what you make it. There's this, okay, it's always about the middle path and recognizing, the weight of this stuff for what
Both
it
are
is,
important.
right? Family and tradition, they're only useful if they're fulfilling and uplifting you and they're bringing you into greater light and love. Otherwise they're just the annoyance thoughts of dead ancestors binding you, right? And it's important to, you take what works, you discard what doesn't, you live your best life, right? You do for yourself. We don't want to be caught up in all of this, false propagandistic images that are designed to what? To define us and to imprison us, to turn us into consumers, to make us little images of our parents. No, thank you. You know, you know, I love this because this to me, this symbolizes the lover's card, the alchemical wedding, and the whole idea of the lover's card is twofold, right? First, and the most prominent meaning is the commitment, right? Committing to that other, but then it's the process of transformation, which is the what? It's refinement, but it's refinement that calls you to shed your ego and to come into loving connection with the other. The two become one. They become that shared whole, right? They become that true universal self, right? The penultimate moment
Absolutely.
before that ultimate realization, and it's found in like that love making where you and your other are matched, you know,
Totally, totally.
so you're smearing my face with your blood, but it's like, you're recognizing that you are of the same source, you know, right? And this makes
Different,
me think,
different,
go ahead.
just the different foils of the same thing, right?
Right, right. Yeah.
I cut you off though.
Oh,
Sorry.
can't wait to talk to Drawing Down the Dragon about the middle way. Yeah, we're going to talk with Scobie and Mandy on Friday. So if people are watching and they want to come check that out, Mandy and Scobie have just released a new volume of their ongoing magical series, The Towel of Minerva. This is the second volume of
Amazing.
their hardcore edition. hardcover, hardcover edition. So we're gonna be, doing a deep dive into that, shooting the stuff. I always have fun with those guys. Mandy is the most irreverent satirist you'll ever see. You can't take him with anything but a grain of salt. But there's always some wildness on display. So yeah, we'll have fun there. Yeah. Sorry for the
Should be
aside.
great. No, it's great. Hail Mandy and Scobie. This is from my clozapine journal. We read this one last time, I think, but it felt worth the repeat. Purgatory and limbo. Time here does not exist, floating through the days. Something is severely wrong inside my brain. Shockproof windows to prevent us from leaping into concrete graves. Agony shudders through me in technicolor waves. This
Technicolor. That makes me think of a lyric from what song is that? Anyway, it doesn't matter, but that's interesting.
I'm
Technicolor
inspired by
wave.
this shirt that I made.
Right. That's a beautiful
Hard to
picture.
see. Yeah,
Right. That's
cross.
your Karen drawing. I have that. You sent me that as
Yeah,
a postcard. I'm pretty sure I
I
have it
did.
up there somewhere.
Nice. Yeah, I have some shirts with it on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was written while I was in psychiatric ward this year. I was there for most of May and all of June. And yeah, it's just recounting some of the realities of the ward, shockproof windows to prevent us from leaping into concrete graves.
Wow.
Time here doesn't exist. It's just like the only way you know what day it is by the meal that they're giving you, because it's like Monday is lasagna, Tuesday is this Cobb salad. There's a, you know what I mean?
And I also, this Technicolor wave thing strikes me because when I think of Technicolor, I think of like those vibrant movies from the '60s where everything is like hyper saturated. But
Yeah,
when I think of a hospital, it's the absolute inverse of that. You're never going to see any red. You're never going to see any blue. Everything is going to be beige.
yeah. I mean, fortunately, this time the hospital they went to, they had art on the walls, which was like a bit
Okay,
nice. But yeah, it's still, even with that, it's very like bleak and bland.
wild,
Yeah, yeah. Let's keep
interesting.
let's keep going. Wax and wane. Sweltering and sculpted from wax, I drip to earth with every step. Sweat leaves footprints on searing pavement. I am an experiment, approaching seizure threshold, death cemented and slowly digging a hole into me. Nocebo convincing me that I will never be okay. Am I broken, and will I always feel this way? The sun flays my flesh and chars the bones beneath.
Wow.
So, part of my psychosis is that sometimes I or other people look like they're made out of wax, and they're melting in the sun. Their faces are melting, and this is inspired by that. So approaching seizure threshold. That's a reference to clozapine that I'm on. I'm taking 600 milligrams, which is the max recommended dose, because beyond that, there's a seizure risk.
Wild.
And nocebo is the opposite of placebo. Nocebo is like the belief that you won't be okay will actually make you not okay.
Right. Oh, interesting.
Kind
Wow.
of like, it's the exact opposite of placebo. You're taking the pill and hoping that it works, then it does work, right? It's like power of positive thinking versus power of negative thinking.
Right. Right. It's
And
interesting.
the sun flays my flesh. The wax melts away, and there's just the bones charring. Reminds me of these candles that I've seen where there's like a person, and as it melts, there's like a skeleton under it, like a statue that the
Yeah,
wax
I've seen
pulls
those. Those are
around.
pretty wild. Those are pretty wild. And it makes me think of
Yeah.
a lot of these, in a lot of these ancient rites, like for example, the Saturnalia, they used to make wax figurines, and then
Oh
they would
wow.
sacrifice them, offer them, right? Uh,
Awesome.
and there would be also toys for children, but they're also this recognition of the changing of the cycles of the death, and it's the death of the sun, right? Because you're at the solstice. Saturn is castrated and cast down into the underworld. You bind him in the chains, you put him to rest, and then he returns, but now he's Dionysus, the child to come. He's risen. He's no longer that grouchy old man, and now he's the young child who's bringing in the spring, or the promise of spring. You know, he's got to grow up first. But yeah,
Yeah,
you know, that's wild stuff,
love
though.
I
You
love
know,
it.
and the sun flaying of the flesh and charring of the bones. That's a powerful image. I think of being like placed in the coffin and like cremated, and that's such a wild thing, because the earliest coffins are a food protecting thing. You made coffins out of bread to protect and then you would toss them on the fire so that what was inside would be protected. So there's an
Oh
understanding,
wow.
like the coffins for the dead were about, you bury yourself in the earth and you put yourself in there, and the coffin protects you for the life to come, for what
Wow. That's awesome.
wild.
Let's
You
keep
can pass
going.
through the fires of revelation in your coffin.
Right, right.
Right.
I am making a weapon of my right arm. That's a quote by Artaud.
Ooh.
Um, torn between violent gashes that give forth unspeakable amounts of blood, or this handful of clozapine in my right hand, this desperate clutch on the verge of slipping into the end of everything.
Wow.
Came pretty close to another attempt earlier in around mid-September, and I was going to overdose on my clozapines. That's what this is about. I was trying to decide, do I want to cut myself or do I want to take these pills? Hard to say. Both of them seem appealing to me.
Wow.
Um, and in the end, the right hand with the clozapine, that's why I'm making a weapon in my right arm. That's what I decided on. And then I said, no, I can't do this. And took a step back, threw them all on the floor, and went to the hospital.
That's beautiful. You took charge. You broke it out of the cycle. You recognized you needed
Exactly.
help.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Seizure. Seize the day. Seize my brain. Approaching 600 milligrams of clozapine. Will it banish these thoughts of death? Will it vanquish the voices? Will it crack the psychotic lens that obscures my perception? Finding the strength to wear the armor, bracing myself for a new reality.
Wow. Again, seizing the day, rising the moment, that chariot energy, dawning of the armor, bracing yourself for that new coming reality. Wow.
Exactly. Exactly. My new reality is taking clozapine, like the first 6 months it was weekly blood monitoring, and then now it's twice a month, and then it'll be once a month after another 4 months.
Wow.
But
And
there's
they're
a lot that
working
goes
at
in.
the dose that you're on right now?
Pardon?
Is it working at the dose that you're on right now?
I noticed a bit of a difference. My doctor said that it can take a few months on this
Okay.
dose to notice a real difference, but like I do feel a bit of a distance between myself and the suicidal thoughts, and like whenever I talk to people, like you see them calmer than like before, less tense than you were
Right.
before, and I feel that.
That's
I'll
something. That's
I'll
an
take what I can
improvement.
get, I'll
Right?
take what I can get,
Right.
and
Right.
hopefully in the next couple months it'll make more of a difference. And then I'm doing weekly therapy with like a group for 26 weeks. So learning some
Awesome.
new strategies there, new coping mechanisms, reinforcing other mechanisms that it's using already.
You got a lot of support. You're on the path.
Exactly, exactly. After many, 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 many years,
Right.
like I first thought about killing myself when I was 8 years old,
That's so
and
sad,
that's
my
when
friend.
that's when I started seeing psychotic symptoms as well. But no one really believed me. They said I was overactive imagination, or that I was doing it for attention. I'm not doing this for attention. I'm doing this to talk about myself and to maybe give other people some hope that they can give a voice to themselves or themselves.
Right.
It's from a point of advocacy. I'm not trying to like be like, oh, woe is me, I'm sick. It's like,
No, and
no,
you're
it's like
trying
I'm
you're trying
sick.
to confront it, by externalizing it, you give it some kind of, you know, you're
To
able to
name the
actually.
demon is to name the demon
Yeah.
is to control the demon, right? So
Right, exactly. Exactly. And it's a way to process the experience. All of this is occurring in your mind, and it's both real and not real. That's got to be something that's really a struggle to face, you know?
it creates a lot of cognitive dissonance for sure. Of like, this is me, and then there's all these delusions, voices, visual disturbances, these psychotic, suicidal voices like bombarding me. And it's like, that's just the reality that I live in. I'm just sharing a glimpse of that so people can understand, since it's such a rare condition.
Right.
Shed a bit
But
of light.
we're always so predisposed to, like, anyone who wants to share something has an agenda, right? You know, And anyone who's talking about their problems, right now, all of a sudden, what you're trying to make me give a shit, you know, and people just get so antagonistic. It's yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird, weird
It's
stuff.
weird. Let's continue here.
Sure. Man of Jasmine. This is inspired by Unica Zern. That's the name of one of her books. You only exist because I imagined you, trapped in this reality I've made for you. I dreamt of this man of Jasmine with a head of ghostly hair. For years he wandered my fantasies, and now it seems he has appeared. My obsessions grow. He commands me to do strange things. My confusion flows. He gifts me tools of creation. Will I ever wake from this dream? I shudder at the thought. Will you ever leave this dream? I stutter at the threat of loss. So Unica Zern was a surrealist, and when she's had this dream of this man of Jasmine, and then she encountered I think Henri Michaud, maybe is the guy's name. I can't
Right?
remember.
Yeah, yeah. We
But
we talked about this in her
yeah,
book. What was it called? I'm trying to remember.
the Trumpets of Jericho
Yeah,
and House of Illness. He
House
comes
of
up in
Illness.
both of
Yeah.
them. He comes up in both of them as this like man with ghostly hair, and she saw him and thought that he was actually the person from her childhood dreams. She's just having psychosis,
Oh
and
wow.
he would give her like pencil crayons, paint, and all these tools like to create and stuff. And so it was like, you know, it's like it's a destabilizing force, but also encouraging at the same time. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. It's interesting, right? Will you ever, you know, when you're faced with these things, they get, you know, eventually they become kind of this nostalgia. They would stay with
Yeah.
you after a while.
And this first line, "You only exist because I imagined you." Someone told me that when I was
I remember
15
you
or
saying this,
16 in a mall. Yeah, yeah. He came up to
and
me and
it's
said, "You
haunted
only
you.
exist because I imagined you." It's been a part of my psychosis ever since.
It's such a wild thing for anyone to say.
Right?
Wow. Right?
Just bizarre. Bizarre.
They were clearly going through psychosis, you know?
Yeah, clearly. So this is from my collection, Imperial Dirge. This life is killing me. It's the lyrics from my Harsh Noise project. I haven't slept in a week. Food is an unnecessary expense. Hyperfixation as the world slips away. 20 medications have done nothing but shatter my hope again and again. With my thumb, I push myself deeper into my own veins.
Wow.
So this is a lot about mania for the first part, not sleeping, not
Right.
eating, hyperfixating on certain goals and like tasks to the point that like you're neglecting other parts of your life.
Right. Where
Um,
you enter
my
into that
desire,
manic state.
exactly, my desire to numb it all again with drugs, but pushing against that.
Right. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. You know, because yeah, drugs are just another distraction. They only solve the problem momentarily, and then all of a sudden you're sober and you're worse
It's
off
like
from before.
it's a band-aid. It's a band-aid over a wound that needs stitches.
Yes, that's a good way to play it, to say it. That's a good way to say it. Wow. Wow. That's
It's like
often what drugs are for people.
you do it to escape, to find yourself, but it's really putting a barrier between you and yourself, I would say. I mean, like, the entheogenic path is different for everyone. For me, it's not good. I did drugs since I was like 12 until earlier this year,
Well, that
and
entheogenic path will, you know, you're very, very right. Even for those who succeed upon it, it becomes a ritualized thing. It's like, you know, a lot of that, you know, unless you have these medical issues, you know, a lot of this regular use of drugs will, you know, you have to then deal with the side effects of all those, of all that drugs. You know, I can't tell you the number of people I've talked to who struggle with dream work because, you know, they're medicating themselves for another issue, you know. Um,
exactly.
and like there's always consequences to these kinds of things, you know. In these classical societies, you know, you would imbibe, but you would do it at a big festival, right, with the dawning of the sun or the setting of the sun, and then you're you know, most of your life you're sober, or you're doing a lot more reasonable amounts. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You know.
yeah,
But
totally.
yeah, and too often, you know, people get caught up in the drug experience and they don't learn how to empower themselves You have to control that magical experience. You have to develop the faculty of mind.
Train
Those
yourself to enter that state of mind without the drugs.
exactly right. They can be a conduit, and they can help, but they can also, they can hinder, and it requires such a deep understanding of body too.
It
The
does.
body will react to whatever you give it. And it's so easy for people to just fall and destroy themselves in that path. you know
So
E-
easy. I was
Even the
lost
great
for
peoples do it.
yeah, I was lost for decades,
Right.
and just like wasting money, hurting myself over and over again. To finally have to say like, oh, how would I say it? Um, one of my poems is a self-harm is a ritual that has outlived its usefulness.
Right.
There's a
And
time
like,
and place. Yeah.
and you've told me too, that addiction energy, it puts you into that compromised position where you have to do the worst stuff imaginable in order to satisfy that addiction. You debase yourself, you know?
Yeah. For about 3 months I was engaged in sex work because I had to pay my rent. And that was like demeaning, humiliating, traumatizing experience.
Of course.
And but I did what I had to do to survive, and but
Right.
that's not a sustainable life.
No, no. And so
It's
many people find themselves
extremely
there,
dangerous. It's
right?
extremely dangerous. Yeah, it's a dark place to be in for sure.
Ugh, scary.
Goat song. Invocation of the great Dionysus in a fervent whirlwind of passion. All hail the goat song. We lick the honey from his thyrsus and fall inwards, and in this descent we see the multiplicity of ourselves, not a single fragment left behind.
Yeah, you got to experience that that all. That's beautiful. And the goat song, right? The tragedy.
Exactly, exactly. Tragedy in
Right?
his goat song, Tragos.
Right? You got to go through the whirlwind of passion. You got to face the complexity of life and heal the wounds of separation. What
Lick
a
the honey.
Dionysian you are.
Yeah, I love
know,
it. Love it.
and you're just saying, I don't want to embrace the divine madness. I'm sober. What's going on here?
Right? It's like, okay, maybe this time's okay.
Right. Right. You know what that honey is on that thyrsus, right? That's the
Oh yeah.
soma. That's the dew, right?
Oh yeah. It's the good stuff.
Right. Anyway, fun. Let's continue.
Driven only by the guilt and shame of giving up. In the
Mhm.
wake of an alcohol-induced coma, the nurse tells me other patients deserve my bed more than me. Strangled by a loved one, claiming I'm not ill, just lazy. Everywhere I turn, I am a burden. Every day it becomes more urgent. Living in hospitals for weeks at a time, always dragged back by thoughts of suicide. Forced to pretend that I'm okay. I'm sick of living this way.
Oh, that's intense. Is it
So
another true experience?
it is one of my the closest I ever came to dying was from an alcohol overdose. I was in a coma for 13 hours, and when I came out of it, the nurse said other people deserve my bed more than I did, and I won't say who, but a loved one took pictures of me unconscious and showed them to me and was like, "Look how pathetic you are," and strangled me and said that they'll kick me out and leave me in the street if I fucked up again. And that
Jesus.
was that was the world's reaction to me trying to kill myself. And for years after, I bumped into people. I did it at a party. So for years after, I would bump into people. Yeah, I remember when you had to leave in an ambulance. That was so funny. Ha 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 ha. And I'm like, you guys left me in a ditch next to your house to die. Someone showed up, and my girlfriend showed up at the time and was like, "Where's Graham?" Like, oh, we left him in the ditch. And she went to me, and I had stopped breathing, and then they had to call an ambulance, and then like they resuscitated me. They had to expel puke out of my lungs, so I was aspirating vomit,
Oh my
and
gosh.
it was a horrible, horrible experience, and I was haunted by it for years after from other people bringing it up again. And yeah, yeah, pretty brutal. I drank a 26-ounce bottle of Jack Daniels in about a minute.
Oh man.
Just
Yeah, that'll
chugged the
do it to
entire
you.
thing.
That'll do
Yeah,
it to you.
chugged the
That's a
entire
death
thing in like a
wish.
minute. It was a death wish for sure. I was just waiting for someone to push me into the edge. And I got that. Someone said, but you can't finish that before I finish my beer. I was like, I will. I will. And that was like enabling of a lot of dangerous behavior. I don't talk to those people anymore.
Good. Don't talk to him. My God, that's horrific,
No. They left me to
man.
die. And that just that they showed their true colors, you know?
Right? They don't care. They thought it was funny. You
Showed
know,
videos of me that they took, be like, yeah, look how drunk you are. And I'm like, can you not show that to me?
people always, they think it's a party, it's a game, man. Ugh,
Yeah.
that's scary.
Brutal stuff. Brutal stuff.
Whew. All right.
Icarus. I read this one, I think, last time. The wax on my wings giving up on me, like the disappointment I've instilled in my family. I never meant to harm, but these arms are numb and I'm burning us all. I truly believe you'll be better off without me. Let me plunge into the sea, wind biting skin as I fall. All this shame is drowning me, pounding inside my skull. I cry out, hands reaching for the sun, palms searing as I grasp for anyone to save me from this fall.
Wow. Wow. That's
Pretty
wild.
straightforward, this one, but
Yeah.
you know,
But that Icarus imagery is really wild. Right? Um, the one who was instructed in the wine making by Dionysus, right? And the one who dons the wax. Again, you have this thing with wax, eh? The
yeah,
wax
yeah,
wings, you know, and the
yeah,
wax wings of Daedalus. He tries to fly with them, and then they get melted by the sun.
yeah,
And yeah, oof. So you can see how that imagery plays into this: the wax wings giving up on me, right? And then the
yeah,
fall, of course. But that, what it is for you is that you're barely holding on. Your wax wings are like you're barely holding on to reality, and then your family isn't there to help you
yeah. I mean, they are here to help me, but
at this
not
time.
not me. Yeah, yeah. They didn't.
Yeah,
They weren't helpful for most of my life, to be honest. It's only in the past couple of years that they've come around.
family's complicated, man. Oof.
Very complicated, and
You know.
this piece was reworked so many times.
Mm.
My dear friend Liam, I often show him. We show each other our poetry, and he was like, it's focus less on the drowning and more on the fall, and like help just urged me to refine this piece like more and more until I got to this point where I'm like, I love this poem. So we
That's
wouldn't have been able to
beautiful.
get there without Liam. So thanks, Liam. I know you're not listening, but you're out there.
Much love, Liam. All right.
Yeah. Cemetery of Screams. Angels and gargoyles are chiseled and released to stand guard over all these graves. I can't see them breathe, but I can hear them weep for all the people lost in the death march of progress and profit, which forces us to carry on until our knees buckle beneath the weight of trying to be okay. Chastised for our struggles, yet mourned when we pass on. Loved ones sobbing, companies robbing caskets and turning our corpses into marionettes that dance to their morbid tune. And still the headstones despair, crying out in the cemetery of screams.
Ooh, wow. Exploiting the dead, playing around with them like puppets. Oof. Capitalism run
Yeah.
amok.
Yeah, yeah, that's what this is about. Unrestrained capitalism.
Right? Profiting off of
Um,
death and playing and desecrating our corpses. Oof. That's gross.
chastised yet mourned when we pass on, right? We've said that before.
Yeah.
And it's too true. Too true.
Right. Yeah. When we are mourned, it's as some false image that they constructed that they never loved when we were here. you know?
Exactly.
Ugh.
This one's more uplifting.
Beautiful.
Community. We flock together, droves of lovely weirdos, to share laughter, tears, sadness, and joy. A communal hearth in which all our paths intertwine.
That's beautiful. Right. The hearth is such an important image from the ancient past. That fire, that central communal spark, the beginning of the city, the beginning of the temple, the beginning of the home, right? And then, like, I always think of that, in the ancient pre-Greek Pelasgian traditions, they're said to have built these massive hearths, right, where
Mm,
they would bake their bread there, but they would also cremate the dead there, and then they would line
wow.
the skulls of the ancestors around the hearth, so that
Beautiful.
fire was also the voice of the ancestor, you know.
Wow. I love that.
Powerful stuff. It also
Beautiful.
became the hearth became what they called in the ancient Greek the Prytaneum. That was the place where they would have their democracies, and you would have to do these ritual rites to bring everyone together in that communal work, right? Because the hearth was the center of that communal work, you know.
Right. Right.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Beautiful. The machine. Please implant this machine in my brain. I am desperate, and doors are closing everywhere I go. Crack open my skull, probe the organ within. Please implant this machine in my brain so that I can finally live. So there's a new technique that's been around for about 20 years now called deep brain stimulation. It's popular in Scandinavia and Netherlands where they make tiny holes in your brain and insert these nodes that are then connect to a pacemaker, and it gives little brief
I've heard
pulses
about
that
this in
stimulate your
relation for people with like what's that disease?
Parkinson's.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah. Thank
Parkinson's.
you.
Yeah, so it was first designed for Parkinson's when they discovered with the nodes in different places, they can stimulate like norepinephrine and dopamine and stuff. Um,
This seems to similar idea to how electroshock works, where you're stimulating
yeah,
certain,
yeah. I had electroconvulsive therapy about 2 years ago now. It didn't work, but yeah, part of me wishes that I could just go to Europe and have them try this on me. But
Wow.
not in my lifetime. Not in my lifetime. Doors are closing everywhere I go. So, like for example, after ECT failed, they were like, you can try ketamine, but they're all private clinics, and they cost anywhere from $8,000 to $30,000 for the treatment. And they said because I have psychosis, they won't give it to me. Then there was transcranial magnetic stimulation, and they said no. There's no. My psych was like, there's no evidence that show that it will help with your schizoaffective depression, and it's about 15 grand. So he's like, I don't want to push you into something that probably won't work. Um, So, doors closing everywhere I go because of my condition. I was referred to a huge research facility in Toronto, but I didn't meet the diagnostic criteria. They're like, we're not studying schizoaffective depression, so we won't give you any of these treatments.
It's so
But then
ridiculous.
their
Yeah.
slogan on Facebook is "No one left behind," and I just hackle at that. You
Right.
know,
Yeah, no one left
they're like,
behind unless you meet a narrow criteria.
it's like
Then
again,
you're
be
left
yourself.
behind,
No, not like that. Be yourself, not like that.
right?
It's like we'll treat
But
we'll
you're
treat
too
you. Oh
unique,
no, not like
Graham.
that.
You're too unique. Your condition is too rare. We can't take a risk on you. We need previous.
Exactly.
This is the most Canadian shit ever. One thing that
Yeah.
unites Canadians is always like we never act first. Well, what's the data on that? Did anyone else make money? Was it successful first? I don't want to be the first one. It's such a Canadian stupid
Afraid to
thing,
shake the status quo, even though we need to change the status quo.
right? We never want to. We always accept, right? And you always want to
It's like
go for
that.
the easy method, the
There's
sure
that
tried and
comic.
true
There's that web comic where he says, "Who wants to change? No, who wants change? Who wants to change?"
right, right.
It's like we
That's such
all
a
want
good
something
one.
different, but we're afraid. Artaud said, "We are truly afraid of pursuing magical life or life under magical design. We want to believe in the magic, but we don't want to give up to it or surrender to what change might bring."
Change is the hardest thing that there is. That's why, like
Mm,
in the tarot, the eights are always the most painful cards. The 18, the moon, depression, right? The eight of indolence, right? Of of being, it's an energy that binds you. It binds you down in the repeating cycles, and you find yourself doing the same thing and expecting different results. And
yeah,
oftentimes, it's born out of habit, and these habits become so impossible to break. You know, but like it's this is why we almost need like why we do need almost communal support, because oftentimes those
yeah,
habits can only be, like I look at something like, Zen, and a lot of that Zen monastic training is insane and it's way too much. But what does it really do? If you look at people who go through that process, this is a machine that's designed to turn you into a meditator, to break you out of undisciplined action and to instill in you instill in you discipline. right? We should be able to have those kind of communal retreats that are of a non-religious thing, that's about helping people come into disciplined flow, helping people to not, one of the things, right? We're all caught up in this consumer energy where we're constantly, wasting and having our attention immediately fulfilled, right? We're constantly in that consumption mode. We're constantly in this conversion mode or conversation mode. You know, one thing that I'm really interested in, but it's still deeply religious, is there's this Buddhist retreat organization called Vipassana. And they do that where you can go on these retreats and you practice silence the entire time you're on this week
Oh, yeah.
retreat. You don't speak, no one speaks. And you're encouraged to be in this meditated focus. Well, after a week of not speaking and after a week of engaging in regular, like, you're going to have a conflict with your ego. You're going to be confronting all of these heavy patterns and all of this societal weight and breaking all these patterns. Right now, it's easy. You could go fall immediately back into them. But, I think it's important that we develop these kind of alternative practices, that can help people. Often we can't break these habits on our own. We can't break, we have all of this for addicts, but we need to recognize that a lot of this is also just bad life, like bad life habits, and we need to help people come into this active disciplined flow in their own life, and
Well
often
said.
people
Well
can't
said.
do it alone. They can't you
No,
can't do it alone.
I
It's
go
too easy.
through weeks. I go for weeks at a time without talking to anyone,
Right.
and part of it's like kind of nice, like being not lonely but alone. But then after a while, you need that connection. It's like, okay, I need
Yeah.
to talk to someone, or else I'll lose my fucking mind with these thoughts in my brain. And
Right.
I do a lot of meditate. I
Absolutely.
do a lot of meditation, which helps. But yeah, you need
you
connection,
know
like you said before.
You need connection. It's always a balance. One of the things I dislike about meditation, people try to transform it into this cure, this magical thing that's gonna like help everyone and resolve all your issues. And then they pretend that like you can't overindulge in meditation and you can't develop psychosis for meditation. And then like that's all true. You can, as much as meditation can ground you in the self, you can also take all of this energy and just stay in your imagination and disconnect from reality and cause yourself psychosis, you know?
More suffering, yeah.
Right? If you want to see God, go sit and stare at the wall. Don't eat, don't sleep. You'll see God. I don't know if it will be real or if you appreciate the experience, but you can do that.
Yeah, it's
I
true.
don't know. Anyway, it's interesting. Okay,
Yeah,
this is our last poem, Graham.
it is. And it's the last one in the omnibus.
Oh wow.
How are we to fight the blight? This is the name of an album by the Shaking Sensations. Wicked post-rock band. Check them out. They're
Okay.
not around anymore, but this album rules.
Hmm.
Everything we do leaves a mark, a stark reminder that we break the world. We try in vain to mend the wounds. Every life is another's death. Pain can be mitigated but not erased. The blight is invigorated the more we pace in cramped circles around a paralyzed will. Each step brings us closer to the center, but we are afraid, and our worries still seize us, throttle us until there is nothing left to kill.
Pain can be mitigated but not erased. And that's such a true. It's a true, right? Love and strife are the two sides of the same coin. There can be no life without pain. There is no
Yeah.
life without suffering. But
Our toe, I
life
borrowed this
is
line from
worth
our toe. Every life is another's death. That's in our toe line.
every life is
Um,
another's death. That's that's
yeah.
another just realism. This is why, like in my youth, I was so caught up for a long time, really in like ideas of nonviolence and idealism, communist utopias, trying to achieve heaven upon earth, trying to be some kind of perfected person. I was really caught up in those ideas of goodness and greatness. But when you confront the nature of reality, right, and when you're forced to deal, you recognize that something like pacifism is a sin. It's an evil. It's not. It doesn't exist in our world. And I'm not saying like we should be in that loving connection with the things around us and strive for that flow, but there's also, we have to face the complexity of the moment. all that
Definitely.
lives off of the death of something else, you know?
Even in rot, life thrives. You know, you have
Yeah.
insects, fungi, like things living
Yeah, it's
off
all
of
part of
their
that
our
cycle,
corpses. We
right?
eat
We all
we eat
are
them, they eat
consuming each
us.
other. Yeah. You know, and we can't break free from these. You know, we have to face and deal with the heaviness of this. We have to face the complexity and the reality of this. You know, trying to just being like, no, the suffering is ugly and violence is evil. It doesn't change reality, you know, and
Nope.
you can deny violence and starve yourself and disconnect from the world, but you know, life goes on in the same way. I don't know.
It
Just something I
does. It
thought about,
does.
you know.
Food for
And
thought
this
for
idea,
sure.
right? How do we fight the blight, right? I
In the
think like,
face of all this darkness, what do we do? You know?
right? We have to embrace life. We have to embrace generation. We have to face reality in all of its complexity, not distort it and hide from it, not run from it, not make it into a boogeyman or make it into utopia. Those things are all stupid, you know? They're not facing the reality of the moment.
No. You need to embrace Melpomene, but also Thalia, right? Two
Right,
sides of the
exactly.
same.
You got to face the tragedy and also see the comedy, right? After you experience the tragedy, you then laugh in the face of the tragedy, right? The laughter
Delos,
allows you
Thalia.
to deal with it. All of a sudden, it's not so big a deal, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? That's wild, wild stuff.
Wild
Yeah.
stuff.
Hail the muses, hail the graces, hail Talia and Melpomene for sure. Wow.
Hail.
Well, that was a lot of fun, Graham. Thank you for sharing with us
Thanks
that beautiful collection. Is there any
thanks for
final
coming along
words
with the ride.
you want to leave us with this beautiful collection? What do you want people to take away from this?
Um, you always ask this, and it's always such a difficult question.
I know, but I love
Um,
it because it forces you to think.
yeah, yeah, it's great. It's great. Um, you know, dumb Spyro Sparrow, while I breathe, I hope, right? It's like we're in the midst of all this craziness, all this darkness, but we're all here
Yeah,
together in the dark, and we can start a new hearth, start a new fire, and be there for each other in a way that society's telling us is wrong.
that's beautiful. What I've always taken from your poetry is that it's an act of defiance against mental illness, against death, and it's an act of creative birth, right? It's a creative act. You know, in the face of all that frustration, you're trying to transform it into new life and generation, right? And you're calling yourself into life. You're embracing creative work. You know, that's it's ultimately incredibly joyous, even though it is, you know, reflecting on this darkness,
Well said.
right?
Thank you.
You know, and I think that's so important. It's like, you know, you have to promote creation, you have to engage in life and generation, however you do it, whether you're a poet, an artist, whether you give birth to children or help the next generation, you got to be in that creative life, you know. That's what gives us
Yeah,
meaning and purpose, right? How whatever that creation is for you, creation is vast, but we want to embrace it and be in that mode, right?
absolutely. Well, beautifully well said.
Oh, thank you. Well, it was inspired by your work, Graham. It's beautiful poetry that makes me think deeply. You know, I love it.
Thank you.
Okay, so when is this coming out? When can people get their hands on this beautiful compendium? How much do you think it's going to cost? And you said it's going to be a big tome, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'll be getting copies probably next week. Yeah,
Okay,
the I sent it off to the printer. I'm just waiting for them to make it.
beautiful.
It's $60, but it's a 740-page hardcover book. So
Right,
it's, I'm basically scraping, just making like barely enough off of each. I'll be making back my investment, but I'm not going to be profiting from
right.
it really.
But this, if you love Graham's work, this is the one to get. Right, this is the art piece. This is the complete collection. Right, really,
Yeah,
really beautiful
and
stuff.
with every order, I'll throw in a couple smaller chapbooks as well as a little like thank you.
Graham always gives you swag.
Um,
You'll probably get some sigils and postcards and other things to
yeah,
imagine.
a couple of people are waiting, and I'm just saying thank you for your patience, and it's all being sent out this week.
Right. So make sure you check the links below. You'll find Graham's link tree, and that'll send you to their publication house, thingsinmychest.com, where you can purchase all of their books, their t-shirts, and their other swag there. I know you've been working on several other projects too. You're always got your hand in many other things. There was another poetry collection you just released, Chimera. Can you talk a bit about this?
Yeah, this is called The Chimera or How to Murder Your Dreams. And it's how to say it? It's a collection of fiction fragments and play scripts and prose poems.
Oh, interesting.
Lots of pieces that I was working on and like kind of abandoned. And then I went back to them. I'm like, no, it's actually cool how it is. I refined them a little bit. And it ends with a play that I wrote with my dear friend Max called The Great Disconnect. And it's sort of like Sartre meets Beckett.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's interesting. The French
It's dark.
existentialist meets some realism. Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of absurdity in there, theater of the
Right,
absurd for sure, but also very dark. And yeah,
right.
one of my friends said I should actually stage it. I'm like, I would love to do that one day, but I don't have the budget right now.
Yeah,
But
that's awesome. Now you're making me
one
wanna
day
watch
it'll.
now you're making me wanna go watch Waiting for Godot.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's wild.
Um,
That should be interesting. Chimera.
yeah. My friend Austin did the art for it, and it looks awesome.
Amazing, amazing. And you and I, we're working on our first big collaborative project with people from our greater Drawing Down the Dragon community. We've talked about this on the show before, but we are in the process of creating our own publication house, Draconic Works. And we've decided that we're going to do our first publication as a tribute to Dionysus. You want to talk about a
Yes.
bit about this?
Yeah. So there's going to be an anthology of anyone can contribute to it. Poems, prose, essays, fiction, artwork,
Pictures,
photography,
paintings.
paintings, photography, anything. The sky is the limit. But it's gonna be called Songs of Madness, the divine dedication to the spiritual ecstasy.
Right. Yeah, and what
So
we're
it's
doing
gonna,
is we're connecting to that spirit of divine ecstasy, right? That cosmogonic eros, Phanes, Dionysus. You see this in many traditions, but it's that divine maddening inspiration that calls you into that individuality. It's the power of the fool, right? And we've got some interesting collaborators already. A bunch of our friends from the temple, but our dear friend Gas Boucher is going to be collaborating. That'll be interesting,
yeah.
you know?
Always excited to see what he has to say. And
Right.
it'll be a wonderful project. Um, if you want to be engaged in it, I guess you can send me an email.
Yeah.
Um,
Message us or you can message me, leave us a comment. We'll get in touch with you. And yeah,
Sounds good.
it's, all of the proceeds from this are going to go to charity. It's just about, or go back into producing more material for the Draconic
Yeah.
Works. Because the idea
So the
too
idea,
behind this, go ahead.
I was gonna say we're gonna release some nice limited, beautiful hardcovers, but then also have the PDF for like free or a couple
Free.
bucks. So it's free for more accessible people who can't afford the actual book. 'Cause
Yeah, that's the idea.
we don't want to restrict people
People have
from this.
access to the poetry, but we always will encourage donations, right? So you can go and read this no matter what. And then we'll release the book as something like if you love this, you want to support what we're doing, you want to have that coffee table icon, that idol, you can have that. And I
Yeah,
always appreciate that. That's a fun thing. And, this is the first of many books and many projects to come. I'm still working on my Hymns to the Muses collection. We were talking to a dear friend of mine, Leslie Celine, who has written a book about channeling the spirit of King Numa, the second king of Rome, her book Becoming
wow.
Numa. We've talked about, I want to release a poetry collection of magical inspired public domain poetry that I featured on the channel through all of these daily adorations. So, all of
Yeah,
that stuff connected, and we'll write some essays explaining why they're so beautiful. And then we were even thinking, hopefully, we would love to eventually get into translation, to trying to make some of these more obscure texts from across history and across cultures more readily accessible. So we have big ideas in mind.
That
So
we do. It's gonna be a
support us,
ride.
right? If you're a creative person and you wanna write a poem about divine madness, you want to write a short or take a picture or do some art, whatever, send us a message and
Anything.
we'll
All
include
art
you.
is valid.
Yeah, and we'll include you in this collection. So it's going to be a lot of fun, right? Songs of divine madness, beautiful stuff.
Yes.
All right, is there? Oh yeah, anything else that you've been up to lately that you want to promote before we call it?
I think that's it. We are Dion and is working on that comic
Oh
book.
yeah, we also have
Comic
that comic book,
Draconic
right?
Works.
So
Draconic
Dion
Works.
has, yeah, for Draconic Works, we also have this incredible comic book that Dion is doing about this wild story. So the story is basically there's this what's her name? It's gonna bug me here. I gotta find it. But it's
Yes,
about this
I'm drawing
lady,
it down.
Magdalena Solis. Yeah, right. And her rites of blood, this cult of fear that she had. It's a really wild kind of story. We're talking like, human sacrifice, the business of satanic panic, you know, all done in cool comic book form. And so that'll be a draconic release. And then we're going to do a couple episodes of Occult Explorers to promote that. So you can get also all the deep,
Nice.
juicy background on Magdalena Solis and her cult of
Oh
blood.
yeah.
you
Yeah, it's
know,
gonna be wild. It's gonna be wild.
right. Beautiful stuff. So
I
that's
guess
what we've got in the works right now.
that sums it all up.
Amazing. All right. Okay, Graham. Well, this was so much fun. Thank you. Really appreciate it. All the love in the world.
Always
Any final
um
message?
um just love yourself. Love each other.
Love
Go
yourself.
out into the
Love each other.
world, you know?
Create art, right? Make some poetry, right? Embrace generation. All right. Thanks again, my dear friend. Peace and
Thanks for
love.
having
Thank
me.
you.
Peace and
Everyone
love.
who's watching, make sure you support Graham and check out thingsinmychest.com. Until next time, take care.